Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Your Head in the Cloud. I'm Sophia, and I'm joined today by the amazing Cora. Hello,
Hi.
welcome to the stream.
Hi, Sophia. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited about today's stream because we're going to talk about a new founded agency. We're going to talk about photography. We're going to talk about representation, all very interesting topics. And I think we should start with maybe introducing you real quick to the people that don't know who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Cora. My pronouns are they, them. I am originally from London, from Bromley, just outside Southeast London. And I've been based in Berlin for almost 2 years now. I've been a freelance photographer for just over 1 year. And I am now the co-founder and creative director of Germany's first exclusively LGBTQI+ talent agency. And we are called UNS, which in English, that means us.
Yeah, so I would really like to, one thing I would first like to tell how we met, because I think it shows like how cool of a person you are, because I think I texted you on Instagram and the first thing you did was like record a super lovely voice message saying that we should meet in person because we should not just be online friends. And that was just so lovely. And then we met in person and it was like instantly, you're such a like joy to be around. So thank you for being here today and sharing your story of uns, because I think that's a really interesting topic to talk about first before we go into your photography.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about what the agency is and when you founded it and how did all of this happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is an idea I'd had for a couple of years. I was looking into getting into fashion photography, but obviously was a little bit apprehensive about that because it's so notoriously cutthroat. And I'm a sensitive flower, so I didn't think I could take it. I was a bit unsure about it. So I just had this very loose vision of maybe working in fashion for a little while, getting a bit sick of it, and in the future, maybe 10 years in the future, making an agency that's exclusively for LGBTQI+ people. And then about last September, I had a shoot for a project, which I will talk about later, with my good friend Max. That was the first time we ever met. I was shooting them for this project, and afterwards we got on super well. We got a little vegan ice cream, and we were talking about, I always like to speak to people, like other creative people, about like, if nothing could stop you, what would you be doing right now?
Yes.
Or like, if you could do absolutely anything with no consequences, what would it be?
Yeah.
So we were talking about that. Max is a model.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but I do believe I've met Max once because they came to my exhibition 2 years ago and they approached me a little later in the evening. So I might have had a few drinks at that point, but I do believe they were absolutely lovely and I met them. So the world is a small place. I actually know.
She's a Libra. They're an absolute babe, of course.
Yes.
So, but we got chatting and I'd said that to Max. I was like, yeah, in the future, 10, 20 years, you know, when I'm like a bit more of a business babe, you know, like I know what I'm doing. I can stand up for myself a bit more. When I'm a bit more fierce about it. And Max said, as a model, as a non-binary model, they just were struggling to find where they fit. And, you know, if you're going to put a non-binary person into a women's wear or a men's wear campaign, that's never going to work. They're always going to stick out like a sore thumb. And that is how the fashion industry is divided. You know, you're a man or you're a woman. And there's no room for anything in between that. So this is a massive gap in the market, in the world, in the media that we saw it's necessary to fill. And so we talked about this idea of having an agency, whatever. It was nice. And then we bumped into each other a couple of times over the next few months. And then I went to the UK in March this year to shoot for a project, which again, I'll talk about later. I was planning to be there for 2 weeks. I was there for nearly 5 months because all the planes were grounded. I lost my main income here back in Berlin. And Max had messaged me saying, I can't stop thinking about this idea. A, do you want to do it? And B, do you want a business partner? And so I was like, well, yeah, sure, let's do it. Whatever. Like, you know, Corona's messed everyone up. I don't know. This sounds cute. I like you. Let's start. And it's just become this massive, it's like the biggest thing either of us have ever done.
Yes.
And we're so lucky to have found each other. We agree on 99.9% of everything. We share each other's views, morals, ethos, everything. And it is just the most perfect pairing.
Yeah.
And we've spent the last, 6 months just preparing everything.
Yeah.
While I was still in the UK and Max was in Berlin, we did everything we could over Zoom, getting everything set up, like branding, website starting and stuff. So, and then as soon as I was back in Berlin in August, we were able to start actually onboarding models. So now we represent up to 25 talent. I think we have 23 models and then a couple of photographers, one videographer.
How did you know these people, or did you approach them to be part of the agency? How did that work?
Yeah, I think at first the majority were people that we knew, because as a model and me as a photographer, we both had a lot of people like in our networks that we knew needed this too.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're looking at doubling our talent pool over the next month or so, because we're about to open up for applications, and every day on our Instagram we get messages asking how to join us and thanking us for doing this.
Like, can people apply? Like, if someone maybe sees this stream, or like, can they reach out to you? Can they send an email? How's the process basically?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we are actually launching our website today. This is like a little bit of a sneak preview. Yeah. We're only announcing it later, but I have it right here. In fact, let's open that up. I have our website here.
The exclusive preview for everyone.
Exclusive. Yeah, exactly. Only friends and family have seen this so far. So y'all lucky and blessed today. But yeah, so we have honestly such a fantastic, diverse group of people that we represent. And it is such a joy. Like, we have an internal document with everyone's headshots on, and every time we go into it, we're both like, look at these people, this is the future. Like, this amazing mix of people from all kinds of backgrounds, and it's just so exciting. Every time I look at them, I'm like, I feel like these are our children, you know. Like, they're so amazing.
Because that's how I found you, actually. Like, I think I saw Uns first, and I was like, oh my god, this is incredible. This is basically because my work has also been about, like, above the gender out of the gender binary, showing representation, visibility of non-binary people, of trans people. So I saw this agency and I was like, oh my god, why is this, first of all, not huge? And then I realized, okay, you had only been there for like a month, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. But watch them out. Like, I'll check this in a year and it's gonna be a huge thing. And then I saw that you had taken the photos, I think some of the headshots, or like for the for a campaign, which you're probably going to show later. And I was like, oh my god, this photographer, they are awesome. And then I reached out to you. So I think this is something that the fashion industry, the photography industry has been waiting for. And I'm so happy that you took that on, because just from thinking of an idea and then actually doing it, that is such a big stretch. I think so many people have stuff in mind. So I don't know if you can tell a bit more about, was there like a certain moment where you were like, I'm going to do this thing? Like, we actually going to follow through. It's not just a funny idea that we had, but it's actually something we going to do and take on, because it's so much work and such a big undertaking.
Yeah, definitely. There was definitely a moment when I noticed, wait, this isn't just a little project. This is, like I said earlier, the biggest thing I've ever done. Yeah. And I think Max has ever done too. And there was a good couple of months when it just felt so much bigger than us. Like, we just felt like these two tiny people desperately trying to work out what we're doing and where we're going to go with it, while we've got all these people supporting us. And like, the support has been absolutely incredible. We've had people like start crying when we told them, like, tell us they got goosebumps, like, because it's the first one in Germany. How is this not a thing? Max was saying to me that when they were starting to look for an agency to represent them, they were like, oh, I'll just Google, like, which one in Berlin shall I join? Which exclusively LGBTQI plus talent agency in Berlin can I join? like, let me have a look at the selection. They Googled it and there's nothing.
Yeah.
And when we started properly turning this into a real thing earlier this year, we did the same. We Googled it online and found nothing across the world. There was a couple that we were like, well, maybe they're exclusively LGBTQA plus. We can't quite work it out. Yeah. So in my eyes, that's not exclusively, is it? Because it's like, it's not explicitly. So
exactly. Yeah.
But I think we Googled again a couple of months ago. And since we started in about April, May, that's when we started planning. Since then, there's a handful. Okay. So there's a London-based exclusively trans talent agency called WIMP. They're fantastic.
Yeah.
And there's one, I think it's based in New York, called New Pandemics, which is funny because look what's going on right now. But they're also fantastic. These are couple of the only ones I could find.
There's like a sort of like change coming? Do you feel like it's because you said that there are more now? Do you feel like there's a development in a more, I don't know, direction of having more of these agencies now?
Absolutely. I think big brands that aren't working with diverse talent, like the people that we represent, they're going to be left behind. They have a shelf life now. Things are changing so fast. Even in the last 4 or 5 months, 4 new exclusively LGBTQA plus talent agencies have opened? Like, that says buckets, you know. It's, these places are going to be left behind if they're not ready to get on this train. Yeah. And fashion has just been stuck in my eyes. It's stuck in the 70s, you know. Like, all we're seeing are these skinny cishet models. And I think there's been an excellent advancement of racial diversity within fashion over the last couple of years, but still they're still skinny and almost all cishet, and this is just so outdated. Like, fashion, the main reason that fashion exists is for expression and belonging, right? And it's not doing those two things anymore. It's simply not. If the only people it's representing are these outdated beauty standards of thinness, whiteness, and cis heteronormativity, that's boring. I'm bored. I look in a magazine, I don't see myself anywhere. Yeah. And that's coming from me as a white person, you know? So it's, I just think it's come at the perfect time, and things are going to change so fast. And we have such massive hopes and visions for what we're doing.
Yeah, I completely echo all of that, because I was looking for like talents for some of my shoots, and it was actually like, when I planned my Pride shoot for this year, it was really difficult to find, because I really want people from the community to be part of my projects. And it was really difficult to find anyone, because I think I looked around April, and there were none agencies. And even if they have talents that might be non-binary, they don't address that, or it has not been addressed. Like, it's not exclusive. It's not that they say like, these are beautiful people from the community. So I think it's really important to just also show that and like tell it to people, because we have to, I think, in my opinion, get out there to reach everyone, to get to the point where it's a normal thing to open a magazine and have representation of everyone.
Absolutely.
And it's not just within some sort of bubble. There's a photo I took.
I know. I just thought I'd give you a little bit of promo while we're here. This is our gorgeous model, Eros. And you shot him for, that was your Pride.
Exactly.
Adobe Pride campaign, right?
Yes. So I'm so happy, and I can't wait to like work with you and all your wonderful talents. And I think it's an inspiring thing, not just that you took on this huge thing of like doing your own agency. I'm still so impressed by that, and thankful to you for being such a brave, inspirational person. And I think if people have any questions, anything, I mean, can they reach out to you in some way? Is there, like, I guess you have a contact thing on your website?
Yeah.
Because I would like to move on now a little bit more, talk about your photography, because you're an amazing photographer. So we're moving on from going into your photography
business stuff. Now we're going into My stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned earlier that I was working on a project. This is how I met Max, through this project, my co-founder of Once. So I think I will take you straight to a selection of photos.
Yes, please.
From this. So I moved to Berlin 2 years ago. So let's rewind. So I studied popular music at Goldsmiths and I graduated in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And I was feeling really done with it. By this point, I'd studied music as a singer for 5 years. I was feeling really like, I don't think this is for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's a classic story of kind of ruining it by studying it, so I think that's what I did. And I just wanted to get out of the country. I hadn't traveled much at all before that. A lot of my closest friends had been all over the world, and I was like, I need to just get out and live somewhere else. So I did a graduate teaching scheme,
mm-hmm.
Teaching English to kids. I messed up the application form, so my first option that I wanted was to go to Colombia, and because I messed up the application form and told them that I was fluent in German by accident when I couldn't speak any, they sent me to a very small town near Dresden in Saxon to teach very young children. So I did that for a little while. That was weird but amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Then I did the same job in Berlin. So that's what I first came for 2 years ago.
Cool.
And I've been here for I think a couple of months, and I was feeling really stuck. Like, I always joke that when I was at uni, when I was at Goldsmiths, you were measured on how cool you were, depending on how long you'd spent in Berlin. And so I was like, no, I'm never going to this place. If that's what you have to do to be cool, absolutely not. Like, I'm not going with what you'll say that cool is. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And here we here I am.
And look how that worked out.
Just desperately trying to be cool still. So that's how I ended up in Berlin. And I got here and I just obviously had all these amazing expectations. I was like, this is where the coolest people are, and this is where everything happens. But I got here and I was like, well, where do I find these people? How do I talk to them? How do I get in these circles and do what I want to do?
Yeah.
So a friend of mine and I went to a voguing class.
Yes.
I was very confident going in because me drunk in Heaven,
like
Sophia, do you know about Heaven, big queer club in London? Me drunk in Heaven when I was like 18, voguing, amazing. I can do it. That's fine.
No problem. Yeah.
So I thought, this is great. I'm already experienced. I'll go and do that. It was an absolute train wreck. It was exhausting. I was terrible. But afterwards, this was the teacher. So this guy, Christopher, you can find his Instagram. Yeah. You can find his Instagram at christopher.saintlaurent. So he was a teacher. And afterwards, I heard him saying to a friend that he really needed passport photos taken like that evening. Like, he desperately needed it. I had my camera on me, so I was just taking touristy photos during the day. And so I went over to him and I was like, hey, look, I'll take your passport photos if you literally just do one pose. Just pose me, like one thing. Let me take a couple of pictures just in the corridor of Motion's dance studio.
Yeah.
And he was a bit like, who are you? Why do you want to do that? What are you going to do with the photos? But he agreed to it because he really needed passport photos. And then he just drops to the floor and does this. So I had to quickly put my amazement aside and be like, okay, quick. You got like one pose to do this. He actually gave me a few more. I was very generous. And this is like one of my favorite photos I've ever taken.
It's incredible. I love it.
Like 5 minutes after a sweaty dance class.
That's cool.
He was saying he was basically wearing his pajamas. And then look at him. What the hell?
It's
That's
like,
amazing.
I look way worse in my pajamas.
Yeah. So then after this, I started to think, okay, well, maybe taking photos is the way to connect with people here. And maybe I can. Maybe I'm a good photographer. I don't know. Like, it's worth a try.
Absolutely.
So I started to put some like messages on Facebook groups. Like, there's a non-binary Berlin Facebook group, there's a queer exchange Berlin Facebook group, and that's how I met this next person, Mickey. So Mickey sent me a Facebook message. I've almost memorized it because I thought it just tickled me, I don't know. And they were saying they're a genderqueer drag king from Bavaria, so the south of Germany. Mm-hmm. And they said they're a cultural immigrant to Berlin and had lived there for about 15 years. They were a nurse, and they had this vision, and have had this vision for ages, to take photos of them shaving off the beard that they'd drawn on as a drag king. So I went to their place last summer. They live really close to me. It was just a walk down the canal, which was lovely. And we did this photo, and I walked in. So this, also, I forgot to say, the name of this project is Queer Berlin. This is very basic, but it does what it says on the tin. I've often thought about coming up with a better name, but nothing else explains it more than that. So
yeah, I think the name matches.
You don't always have to be too flowery with it, you know?
Yeah.
So I walked into Mickey's bathroom, and you can't quite see it, but here on top of the mirror it said Queer Berlin, and I was like, okay, that, you know, some kind of stars are aligning here. This is meant to happen.
Yeah.
So we took some photos and we had a great time. And also later last summer, a friend of mine came to record a mini documentary, which you can find on my Instagram, which I think is linked below. Is that right?
I think so, yeah.
Which Mickey is in. Yeah, and this was like one of the first times that I'd sent people photos that I'd taken of them. And I was so overwhelmed by their response, because they messaged me back saying, I've forgotten exactly what it was, I'm not quoting them, but it was something like, I've never seen myself in a photo. And in these photos, I see myself. And, you know, to genderqueer people, to trans people, that is so, so important.
Yeah.
And amazing. And the fact that I could give that to someone made me think, this is right, like this, I got to keep going with this, and I got to show these things to people. Yeah.
Can I just like quickly ask one of my questions that I wrote down, because I think it really fits right now, because as you said, you probably then had the feeling of like you can give representation to people. So what role does representation play in your photography, in your work? Do you feel like it is something you actively want to show, or how's your relation to that?
Representation is everything in what I do. With Ons, with my personal projects, it's absolutely everything. I think if you can see yourself anywhere in fashion, media, art, whatever, you can be yourself, you know, like you need to have that kind of inspiration. Like, cis het people see this everywhere. We live in a world that is normal to be cis and straight. Yeah. And it's the norm to be white. It's the norm to be skinny. So people that are white, skinny, cis het, they see themselves all the time, and they don't realize how damaging it can be, especially to young queer people, to not see themselves, because how can you find yourself if you have no path to follow? It's such an important part. And yeah, I mean, even for me personally, like seeing bigger bodies in fashion has helped me with my own body image so much. Yeah. And that's coming from me as like a very confident person, you know, and if I still need that little bit of guidance and help, then imagine what everyone, like other people, need too. So yeah, I think representation is absolutely everything, and that's basically the core of everything I do is to strive for true and authentic representation of everyone, especially underrepresented people.
Yeah, I completely agree. I would even go as far as to say people that are minority need even more representation in broader platforms and media, because all these people that are like stereotypical represented throughout everything, they also see themselves in their real life. Mm-hmm. Like if you're a little gay kid in a small town, you don't see yourself in your neighbor, in your classmates, or wherever. And if you're then also are not represented in fashion, media, TV, series, you don't see yourself anywhere, but other people see themselves represented already around them. So I feel like media, art, and all of this has even a bigger role when it comes to representing under like smaller groups. So I think you're doing an amazing job with that. I just wanted to emphasize that. Okay, we can continue with your amazing photos.
Sure. The next photo I'm going to show you is one of my great friends, Laura. Again, I think she got in touch with me via Facebook. And I mean, she's like, look at this girl. She is a badass. When I first saw that she'd sent me a Facebook message, I was like, oh my God, I think I'm a bit scared.
These tattoos are...
She is the nicest person ever. Like, she is the sweetest thing. And she's a little bit shorter than me, and I'm like 5'2". So we're like, you know, it just makes me think she's even more of a badass. She's so fantastic. She's a tattooer from Brazil, from Sao Paulo.
Oh, cool.
Based here in Berlin. So we met to have this shoot because she's also a photographer. That was what she studied. But she's a tattooer here now. So we had a great shoot. She's a Leo, so she was having a great time in front of the camera. And then I found out she was, like, I saw where she worked, where she tattoos, and so I booked a tattoo with her. And while I was tattooing, while I was getting a tattoo, I was like asking a lot of questions I normally do, you know, I'm really interested. And then she was like, hey, I'm doing a workshop on tattooing, do you want to join? So I did, which was terrifying. I'd never used a tattoo machine before. And now it's actually one of my main jobs is a tattooer here. And it was because of Laura and the next person who I'll show you, who, you know, just this tight community of pushing everyone up, pushing each other up, lifting each other up, which I'd never experienced anywhere else before, and is so precious. Which leads me perfectly on to the next thing. So this is actually my flatmate, this guy here, and my friend Orna. So this is Ravel and Orna. Orna's a tattooer. And here she's drawing on, she's freestyling a stencil on the side of Ravel. So this is actually on my birthday last year. Orna was looking for a queer photographer. And so Laura put us in touch with each other. And this is how I met my flatmate on my birthday, taking photos of this scene, you know, this huge tattoo being made. And I've just ended up in so many random situations where I've been like, how have I got here? But it's just through being like, oh, you need a photographer? You're all queer? Okay, let's try it. And
I know that.
These random situations. And so when I was taking these photos, Ravel, the guy getting tattooed, was like, oh, I can't find a flat. Like, you know, Sophia, it's notoriously difficult to find somewhere to live in Berlin. And I had a free room in my flat coming up the next month. So I offered it to him and we still live together. In fact, I hope you can't hear him bashing about behind this door, but
it's like, are you talking about me?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think that for me is like Berlin in a nutshell, by the way. It's like you meet someone that introduces you to someone else. You have an opportunity to do this that leads to that. And then you meet someone else. It's just... This is very Berlin,
Exactly. And as much as I like to have control over what I'm doing and where I'm going, actually, if you're open to take these opportunities, it's going to open up every single door to you.
Yeah.
Like all of these people, like Orna and Laura here telling me, oh, stop worrying about like starting tattooing. You just got to do it. Just do it. Come and tattoo at my studio. Come and do this. And I was like, I'm not qualified. I'm not ready for this. Because in my mind, the way you go into it is very different. So just people like this opening doors for each other as well. This is what I love so much about my community and my networks here, is that any opportunity we come across, we share. Like if I'm shooting something and they need a makeup artist, I will find someone that I know and that I think is right for the job. But
completely
from my circles.
Yes, completely agree. So what's the next picture? Also, I wanted to say I really want to get a tattoo done by you.
Oh, do you?
Yes, I do.
Oh, I actually have
Don't you have a flash?
Added in a couple of photos here, just in case anyone's into tattoos and curious. These are just a couple of the little things that I've done. And actually, the next one is on Laura.
Oh.
This is on her back. We did a swap, and I tattoo a lot of queer tarot cards. And so she requested a genderless fool. This is the tarot card of the fool with a dog.
Looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
But also, I'm just going to quickly take you to the Queer Berlin section of my website, because there's just a couple more photos which I will quickly
Yes.
let you see. I won't
Yes.
tell any stories. But yeah, this has just been so fulfilling and such a massive part of why I love this city so much, because every one of these photos has a story, like the ones I've just told. And I stay in touch with most of them. Like this person, I think we were born at the same hospital, and they went to school on the end of the road that I grew up on. And then we just met via Instagram here with no idea of the backstories. Yeah.
You mostly take portraiture, right? Is that something you do because you're drawn to like the people in front of the camera, or is it something about building the connection, or is it just something that happened?
Yeah, I think most of what I do is portraits, and fashion portraits, not just like this. Also, I'm a photographer for an activist group called Voices for Berlin. It's a global initiative, and I'm part of the Berlin chapter. In fact, I can show that in a second. But yeah, like I was saying earlier, because representation is so key to everything I do. Yeah. Photography is. I didn't get into photography because I love photography. I got into it because it's a vessel and a vehicle for pursuing what I really care about, and my goals in life, and my goals for change and for transformation in the world in general. So like, I don't use a good camera whatsoever. I use an absolute entry-level Canon DSLR that I got for my 15th birthday, and it's fine. It does the job. It makes nice quality photos, as you can see. It's not excellent, but it's all I need, because I don't care about what I'm holding in my hands. I care about the person on the other side and where they're coming from, and the connection that we have, and the common goals that we have together as well. But I
think we talked about that.
Just very quickly, I'm going to show you some of the photos that I've taken for Voices For, which is the queer activist group that I'm in here. This was only a couple of weeks ago. This is a demo outside the Bundestag here in Berlin for Intersex Awareness Day. This here is Danny. On Instagram you can find her at Intersexy. She's an intersex artist and activist. Absolutely fantastic. This is actually one of our models, one of the models that we represent with Ons, Magdo. They're also fantastic. They're a Polish activist and dancer and academic. And this is at Brandenburger Tor, protesting Poland's decision to make abortion illegal. And this was last summer, so summer 2019, at the Radical Queer March. This is Adam Eli, who's the original founder and who put Voices For together, originally in New York. So yeah, this is just some of the other kind of stuff I do. And this is more out of, again, it's a vehicle, because if these photos weren't taken, there'd be no evidence of it. So out of necessity, I'm like, yeah, I'll take the photos. And then I end up really liking the photos and being able to use them as a tool, because that's, I think I'm coming up with my own epiphanies now. I think the whole reason, to me, photography is a tool, and that's it, basically. Yeah. Of course, it's nice, it's aesthetic, and you're like, damn, look at the nice colors in this one or whatever. But primarily, to me, it's a tool. Yeah.
I think it's really interesting, because when we met, we also talked about that equipment and gear. People are so focused on that. Like, people think an expensive camera is going to make them a better photographer, but actually it's your eye that makes you a good photographer, or having a purpose makes you a good, at least in my opinion, like makes you a good photographer. Like, seeing what's happening in front of the camera is what's making you a good photographer, not just looking through a little machine. So I think it's really inspiring, because you can be successful as a photographer. You can do amazing things with something you bought on eBay for used for a really, really small price. And it doesn't matter. Like, you can start basically today to take the photos you want to take.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone absolutely can. And you're right. It's about, if you have a purpose, you're immediately gonna be able to pull that off. And you could have 5 photographers photographing the same thing, and every single person will produce different work, because it's always going to be from you, you know? I always think like, should I try and develop more of a personal style that's really recognizable and immediately noticeable as my work? But I also always think it is my work because I made it, you know? Like, should I really be relying on certain colors and tones or filters and, you know, presets just to make it recognizable as mine? But I hope that, you know, like with angles or distance, whatever, that in time, over when I'm practicing more and more as well, that it will become recognizable as mine, just from smaller things like that, not necessarily, bam, this is obviously mine.
Yeah, I think so too, because I struggled with that as well, where I was like, oh my God, do I have to find something extremely funky, and so that people don't even have to look twice to know that I've taken this photo? But I think if you develop a uniqueness on how to look at things, like, I think for me, it's about focusing more of what's in front of the camera than what you see on your little like display on your camera. If you focus really on what is in front of you, and to make that like the view on the world, your unique view, how the image itself looks in ways of like color, editing, and all of that, it obviously should look nice and good so you like your photo, but don't focus too much on making it extra fancy. Focus more on what are you actually taking photos of.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you want to do with that?
Yeah.
So I love all your photos, and I think they have a really strong like feeling to them. Like I think I could recognize one of your photos, like honestly, not because they have a certain filter or color preset or something, but because I feel like they have some sort of emotion to them. You're really good at like capturing really emotions and stories. Like they tell a story. It's not just like a, you know.
That's really, really nice to hear. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I have one more. I have a few more questions. One question is for people starting out, and also from what you've learned, what advice would you give to people like starting out with photography, or like maybe thinking about how to get started? What would you say?
I feel like I'm not that qualified in giving new photographers advice, because to me, I feel like a brand new photographer. Like I've only really got serious about it a year ago. So I think, first of all, just take photos. That sounds so basic, but you know how much, like if you decide you're going to embark on a new thing, you spend a lot of time planning it, not much time doing it. You just gotta try it. You just gotta try everything, do everything, just make the work, because it will always lead to something. You can do 10 shoots and maybe 2 photos will be nice. That's still 2 nice photos, you know, and you've got all that bulk of experience coming too. I think also what I'm realizing in the last few months as well is how important it is to genuinely care, you know, and genuinely be an interested and interesting person, because it just kind of makes you more magnetic, you know. People want to work with you, people want to give you opportunities, and they want to help you if you want to do the same thing for them. But also it has to come from a genuine place. There's nothing worse than someone pretending that they really, really care about you and your work, but actually they just want you to give them things back. Yes. So it's like genuinely adopting and evolving your own sense of showing up in the world for things that you care about, and acting in alignment to who you are and to what you believe in, what you stand for. And also don't bother with all this fancy gear. Like now I'm so bored by this. The amount of people that ask me like, oh, so like if I'm shooting something, and they'll be like, oh, so where's your main camera? What's your main camera? I'm like, excuse me, you got to spare £5,000 because I'll get a nice one if that's what you really want. Like,
if someone wants to send one over, feel free.
Canon Deutschland, do you want to send me like a big one sometime soon? But, you know, even if they did, my work wouldn't change one bit.
Yeah.
Because that's not what it's about.
Yeah.
Like, of course, like you said earlier, of course you've got to like your own photos. Of course they got to look nice in your opinion.
Yeah.
But no camera's going to change the photos you take.
No.
So, yeah, I think just making the work, and I'm saying this because I got to tell myself this too.
Yeah, I'm the same. Like, I'm preaching it to myself.
Yeah. Yeah, like on Saturday, I'm doing my first for fun shoot for a year. I haven't just done a shoot for fun for so long.
Yeah.
And now a friend and I are just going to hang out, socially distance, and take some nice photos. So.
That's lovely. Yeah, I completely agree. People just have to get out there and do it.
People being us.
Yeah, exactly. We're just like giving ourselves advice through giving someone else advice.
Yeah.
Usually how it goes. Okay, I think it's a really nice ending to our lovely conversation. But before we say goodbye, I think it's one topic that I still want to talk about real quick, because this week is Trans Awareness Week. And I want to just read quickly the definition that was on the website of GLAAD, because I think they do a way better job at describing what that is in one sentence. So Transgender Awareness Week is a week when transgender people and their allies take action to bring attention to the community by educating the public about who transgender people are, sharing stories and experiences, and advancing advocacy around the issues of prejudice, discrimination, and violence that affects the transgender community. And I think it's really important for everyone to know that this is happening. And since we don't have the time to go in full depth about this, I would just strongly recommend everyone to watch the Netflix documentary Disclosure. Tim is gonna drop the link to the trailer and the link to the Netflix series in the chat now. It's a documentary about trans representation in TV and media, and it's really well produced. And I think it shows really well what has been happening in the last years and what has to change. So yeah, I only can recommend you watching that. And with that, I really want to thank you, Cora, for sharing your knowledge, your inspirational journey to get here. And it was, as always, lovely talking to you. And people, please check out uns, check out Cora. And thank you for watching today. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. And I see you next week. I'm going to talk to Alina. She's a 3D artist. I'm going to talk about her work and a little bit of Photoshop insights. So tune in again next week at 1 p.m. Central European Standard Time. So 12 in the US. No, 12 in the UK, 1 in Germany. Time change, time differences. And yeah, I hope you're all well, stay safe, and I see you next week. Bye.